Emotions. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 1302 of What's She Up To Now, documenting the journey as I transition from brick and mortar corporate world of business to the online world of business, and a little bit of back and forth, probably for the rest of my life. It's been over 47, probably 48. I don't know when the time flip is that I have to count 48 years instead of 47, but 47 is a long time. Almost 5 decades of different type businesses in different industries, running, owning, operating, selling, buying, supersizing, shrinking, all different types of businesses, as well as over a quarter century in corporate America. Primarily working in the area of quality and processes and systems, and then sanitation and executive leadership, helping to put together the processes and systems that help the whole organization work together instead of the traditional silo systems that a lot of corporations have, where nobody communicates with one another and there's all kinds of challenges. For over a quarter century. Really, really fun. Really some of the most amazing people and companies in the world I've had the opportunity to work for and with. So today, what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about emotions. Emotions, the emotional SOAP. We went through the SOAP framework, and I actually, just at the end, the timer went off of my 10-minute self-imposed time frame for each day of the Get Up and Go challenge. Today was emotional SOAP, going through the SOAP framework, the S, the O, the A, the P, the whole thing in 10 minutes or less, which is a challenge in and of itself. And we talked about the emotional guidance system. Love my graphics. I did not even try to write this one backwards. I wrote it, took a picture of it, and I'll post that in the comments below on the Get Up and Go challenge page for the challenge today. But I didn't even try it. And you know, a lot of the things I talk about that we have to talk about really quickly, how do you, if you need more information, what do? You go and you research it. You look into it further. That's the reason that we learn things. We hear things that we're interested in or intrigued by, and then we go and we look into them further. We investigate more, we research more, we get more of our own information. I like to think that what I share with people is just kind of the tip of the iceberg to stimulate their curiosity and creativity to go find out more about the things that are of interest to them. That's what I do. If I hear something or see something or somebody says something, like yesterday I learned something new for today's idiom for supersize your business. It's called, it's a vicious circle or a vicious cycle was the idiom for today, which definitely ties into changes and challenges. And I learned something called the rule of 3. I'd never heard of it, but it's really a good idea. And it combines a lot of different things that I've heard and done before, but never all 3 together. And so it's just, it's like a breathing technique or something. I hear about it and it's something new, and then I'll just look into it a little further and say, well, how can I apply this to my life? And that's what I hope I am, is the catalyst for people to hear something and say, oh, well, how can I apply that to my life? How could I use this emotional guidance system to actually make my life better, to allow me to get more control over my emotions? Now, I wish I would have talked about how big a part emotions play in our life, but I didn't have time and I didn't think about it until probably just now. We as humans believe that we are rational, and depending on our personality type, and I'm a direct, more subjective, more objective type. I mean, I'm an engineer by training, and so math, engineering, chemistry, things that are and physics, things that are real, that I can see the results of, are the things I'm attracted to. And so people like me, scientists and engineers and serious people and professors, we believe that our emotions don't play as big a part in our life as they actually do, which I think is to our detriment. I think if we all admit and understand what a huge part emotions play in all of our lives in terms of our decision making, our choices, everything, I think if we gave them more respect and we actually paid attention to our emotions more, we would make better decisions and better choices for ourselves. Just my opinion. I know that in my life has been my experience, is that when I try to shove down my emotions or my intuition and don't pay attention to that, I end up with worse results than if I had paid attention to all of it. It's like how they practice medicine now with the teams of different functions that approach a human being as a holistic being, not as just the parts. When I was younger and I had some health challenges, I had a rheumatologist, I had a cardiac doctor, I had a general practitioner, I had eye problems, so I had a whole team of ophthalmologists and eye doctors. I had all kinds of different doctors in different functions, but they never coordinated. Each one of them was treating the different symptoms of what I had going on, which was a systemic thing, individually. And it turns out that all the different things that they were doing caused such havoc in my body and my system. I was actually deteriorating faster and getting worse and feeling worse and having more problems than before I got sick. Well, obviously before I got sick, but then from the actual things that were wrong with me, I was way worse off than nowadays, where, like, think Mayo Clinic, where they have a team approach. You go to Mayo Clinic, you don't just have one specialty of medicine. You have a whole team of people that review your case, that meet with you and look at you as a whole human being. Therefore, there's much better results. I think the same is true of our emotions. If we were to look at our emotions and the part they play in every other area and aspect of our life, they're there to tell us things and to give us signs for a reason. Just like our body is a consciousness facilitator, our emotions are there to tell us where we're at and what's going on. They're like a thermometer, they're a barometer, they're a temperature, they're a check on what's really going on with us, because we don't feel certain emotions for no reason. We feel them for a reason. They're there as little early warning signs. They're there to help us. They're there to warn us when things when we might be in danger. We need to pay attention to them. But just because we pay attention to them doesn't mean we need to stay there, and we need to be stuck in that emotion. Because being stuck in certain emotions like anger or rage or jealousy or grief, we want to experience those, feel those in the moment, but then we want to let go and move up the emotional guidance system. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's, or whatever search engine you use, look it up and get a little information on it and ask yourself, hey, could this help me in any way or aspect of my life? Yes or no? I don't know about you, but I've used it for a couple of decades now, and it's definitely had a positive move on my life. I used to be that person that was always literally running around like a chicken with my head cut off, running my different businesses, trying to raise my family, trying to be a good wife and mother, and burning the candle at like more than both ends, if that's at all even possible. And I wasn't paying attention to my physical health or my emotional health or my spiritual health or probably my mental health. I was just running through my life. And when we're running through our life, we miss stuff, and bad things can happen. We can get in accidents, we can have illnesses, we can have a sudden cardiac arrest and die if we're not paying attention to the different aspects of our life. And our emotional well-being is a huge part of that. So that's what I'm thinking about today. That's what we were working on for emotional soap today. Ran through it. Again, it's really challenging, and that's part of why I did it, was to challenge myself. Can I describe this? Can I go through an emotion? Can I give an action item and can I go through the whole soap framework in 10 minutes? Now, you can actually, when you're using the soap framework yourself, you can go through it like that. Almost instantly, your subconscious will run through the soap framework and then spit out the best options and results for you, and the answer of what you should do next. But to explain it and break it down for other people, I'm going to get better and better and better at it, because that's my challenge. Is how do I explain this to you in a way that you get? It doesn't matter if I understand it. It matters if you understand it. How do I make it possible for the listener, you, to understand how you can apply it to your life? And that it's imperative that we do find ways to create patterns and systems and things in our lives that makes our life easier and a heck of a lot more fun. So I touched on our idiom for today was a vicious cycle or a vicious circle. Both are used interchangeably nowadays. Vicious cycle came from the 18th century. Henry James' notebook, it appeared in 1892 in writing, so it started to first appear in writing then. It means a circular argument or a circular reference, or a problem that when you solve the problem actually creates another problem, and then when you solve that second problem, it goes back and recreates the first problem. So for example, I always think of a spider web, but cycles of poverty, low income, illiteracy, ill health tends to happen too. If you've ever had health challenges, you'll have one health challenge, and you tend to find that you'll get clusters of health challenges, and that your health will start to decline unless you take massive steps and massive action to halt that decline and create something else in your life. And so I shared today 10 different ways that you can break that vicious cycle and start to create a virtuous cycle, a cycle of positive things and positive activity. For example, I used to live in a vicious cycle of workaholic. I guess being a workaholic would be a vicious cycle. We tend to repeat the patterns of our parents, right? I mean, families that have abuse in them tend to have abuse throughout the generations. Families that have wealth tend to create wealth throughout the generations. Families that have poverty tend to create poverty throughout the generations. So familiar things tend to go about. And I was a total workaholic, just like my dad. And now my dad, his father was a hard worker, but he wasn't a super successful businessman, unlike my dad, who was a super successful businessman. And my dad, and probably where I got it, I'm sure it's where I got it, was he worked in corporate America for like 35 years and simultaneously always had different businesses and different entrepreneurial endeavors on the side. And I followed in the same footsteps and have done the same thing throughout my life and my career. But like my dad had health challenges later in life. He died 6 years ago now. But he had health challenges as he got older and older because he wasn't taking care of himself physically. He probably wasn't taking care of himself mentally or emotionally. Spiritually, he was pretty good about that. But all of those things, I actually followed those same patterns. And then I realized, after having a sudden cardiac arrest, that I needed to break that cycle and do something different and absolutely positively change my mental, my emotional, my spiritual, all these areas of my life that I'd been ignoring. I needed to step into and say, okay, I don't have to focus on these, but I sure as heck have to have a goal in each of these areas, a long-term legacy goal, so that I'm always moving toward it. And 2020 for me was a huge opportunity to really step into the possibility of that and keep moving forward toward that, because a lot of the noise and pressure and things that we were expected to do shut down in 2020 and 2021. And so the downside is a lot of businesses and things shut down in 2020, but it also freed up a lot of time and energy, and time being our greatest resource, for a lot of people to do a lot of things that they've been putting off for maybe decades or their entire life. So lots of people took advantage of that. A lot of people didn't. A lot of people just sat and waited for something to happen and are continuing to wait for something to happen. Probably the worst pot we can put ourselves in, because we're giving away our personal power and we're letting the world outside of us decide and dictate what we're going to do and how we're going to live our lives. But there's also a whole slew of us and a whole slew of people, and I put myself in that group, that kept moving and kept going forward and are continuing to pull people right along with us. It's why I do the Get Up and Go challenges, so I keep moving and to bring people along with, to realize that we don't have to sit and wait for something outside of us to change. We need to take action and choose what's right for us, think for ourselves, and then move forward. So Get Up and Go challenge. Our annual challenge today, our All About You 365-day challenge, do one thing every day that centers you, was about silence, which I'm not demonstrating very well today, but sometime today I will sit in silence and see what wisdom comes. We'll imagine that some wisdom will come to me. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Anyway, I digress. So the two challenges, the daily Supersize Your Business, those are the three main things I'm doing right now through the summer as I hang out with my granddaughter. It's my last week with her, so I am focusing a lot of energy and time on her and spending so that we can have a fun last week of the summer. And then, of course, I promise back to jump full force into my work life a little more seriously, since to me that means the summer's over. Hanging out with my grandkids is one of my greatest joys. I think Irma Bombeck said, if I would have known how much I love having grandchildren, I would have had them first. I think that's funny, but you know, you got to have your kids before you have grandkids. But it's just such a different, to me, it's an amazing, different feeling, because it's all about love and attention, and all the mistakes we made with our kids, we correct with our grandkids. At least that's what I'm trying to do. And I hate to admit that I made mistakes with my kids, but we all make mistakes, right? Including with our parenting and things like that. I mean, could we have done a better job? Yes. could always continually improve and do a better job. So I think of grandchildren as my opportunity to do a better job than I did with my kids. Plus, it's a lot less stressful. Anyway, any questions, any concerns, any comments, any stuckness? I don't know if stuckness is a word, but it is now. If you're stuck on anything with respect to your business, growing your business, or even your life, and you don't have someone to ask, just ask. I say this because I wish somebody would have said to me, hey, I don't have all the answers, but if you have a question and you're stuck and you just want somebody to bounce it off of, ask me, because there's no reason to be stuck. There's no reason to be stuck in an emotional loop or a vicious cycle. We talk ourselves into it. We talk ourselves into thinking this is happening, therefore this is how I have to respond. But there's always other options, and that's why I'm excited to share this whole framework with people. Any questions, ask me. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow. Not rambling on and on so much about emotions and emotional soap, but something. I'm sure I'll be talking about something, probably something mental and thought-provoking, since we're going to do mental soap tomorrow. Have an awesome day. If I can help you in any way, ask. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow.